Oh, what's that? You thought I was playing Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis? Ha ha. No, I'm not doing that. I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Game Gear. Now, okay, listen, I was gonna do this. I probably should have done this on the Master System because that is probably the more definitive version of this game, and I'll get into it why in just a second. But so I didn't realize that there was a Master System version of this game, and I had already recorded the footage for Game Gear, so I'm just going with the Game Gear. The Master System version, basically the only clear difference between that one and the one that I'm doing is that it's slightly less zoomed in. Basically, you can see more on screen, and subsequently you can see more of what's coming ahead of you, which obviously makes it a better time, a better play style. But there is one thing to the Game Gear version, I will say, that is kind of enhanced by the more zoomed in situation we have going on here. I mean, sure, you can't see as much coming, which makes it easier to run into enemies and things like that, and very inconvenient for the player. With it being more zoomed in, you could make the argument that it makes each stage feel larger than it actually is. It creates the illusion of a grander adventure, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way that I look at it. I mean, still, it's not ideal. Like, I'll run into enemies like crazy, but, other than that, it's like, it makes every level feel bigger. It makes the game feel bigger. Obviously, it's not a very big game because of how old it is and what systems it was on. The power was not there for these games, but, the zoomed-in screen at least makes it feel bigger. And, to me, that's all that matters. So that's all I'm going to say on the difference between the Master System and the Game Gear version. I'm going with the Game Gear version here, yeah, that's what we're going to do here. And also, I swear to God, if you guys start accusing me of being too lazy to record Master System footage, I will destroy you. Anyways, on to the game. This is Sonic the Hedgehog 8-bit. Now, basically, what we have here is Sonic the Hedgehog 1. You remember that game? It's the one that had that little level called Green Hill Zone. Yeah, maybe you've heard of it. So this is basically a trimmed down, more pixelated version of that game. And the thing is, it really isn't much different from the original. We got Green Hill Zone, we have a lot of other levels that were also copied. We have Labyrinth Zone, we have Scrap Brain Zone. So yeah, we have 3 levels here that are ripped right from the original, which I find to be very interesting. Green Hill Zone is a very basic version of the Green Hill Zone from the original game, and I really don't have a whole lot to say about it other than it's pretty, I guess. Labyrinth Zone, I would actually argue, is an improvement in this game over the original. Labyrinth Zone in the original Sonic the Hedgehog was frustrating, confusing, lots of enemies, lots of hidden traps. Nobody likes that level. But Labyrinth Zone in Sonic 8-bit is very streamlined by comparison. It's not confusing, there aren't any hidden enemies, the traps are easy to figure, like, this whole thing is just very simplified compared to the original. And, I think I would rather that than what we got on the Genesis. So honestly, Labyrinth Zone in Sonic 8-bit is where it's at. Scrap Brain Zone is very underwhelming for it being the second to last level. The first act you can beat in probably 20 seconds. I'm not sure why Act 1 of Scrap Brain Zone was so short. I mean, it's basically just a gauntlet of enemies and things you gotta jump over and that's done. Act 2 sucks though, it seriously sucks. They decided to go the maze route with this one, where you gotta figure out the right path to the end and there's teleporters and things like that. It honestly gives me horrifying flashbacks to the last level of Sonic Blast. Oh god, please help me. Like, overall, Sonic 8-bit is a pretty positive time. Like, I just, once again, it's not a speed-focused game, but that doesn't mean that the platforming or any of the gameplay isn't going to be solid. Like, there's some good stuff here, and I gotta give props to Sonic Team for being able to make stuff like this happen on the Game Gear. I don't have many bad things to say about this game, despite how irrelevant it is at this point. You know, I feel like we're just, you know, we're just having a positive time here. Like, this is just fun. I don't know. However, there's a gripe here that I have here. Skybase Zone Act 2, I believe, is terrible, and this is where I think the Master System would be superior in this situation. Because of the zoomed-in camera, you can barely see. You got these cannons firing at you, you've got all these different things trying to destroy you, and with the more zoomed-in camera, you can barely tell when that shit is coming, and it's extremely frustrating. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I've played far worse. The boss fights are... Okay, so imagine this. You got the first boss in the entire game in Green Hill Zone, and it's Eggman, as you would expect. But unless you actually give this guy a chance to attack you, he literally does not do anything. Like, you could destroy this dude in seconds, and pretty much all you will see him doing is he just flies back and forth in front of you, and that's it. He just leaves himself open to get attacked, and that's it. It's almost like we're making history here. The first video game boss that doesn't do anything. That's amazing, man. That's groundbreaking right there. I also find it really interesting how they played with verticality in Jungle Zone. The second act of Jungle Zone is essentially you having to move up the entire time. You're trying to climb to get to the goalpost, and I found it very interesting how they did that. Oh god, and I almost forgot that they did a side-scrolling section in Bridge Zone. God, like, imagine doing a side-scrolling section in any Sonic game. That is the most counterintuitive thing to the very concept of Sonic the Hedgehog. You're trying to go fast, right? You're trying to move ahead and gain speed, but the level literally is not allowing you to do so and is literally forcing you to move at its pace. Yeah, I mean, when is an auto-scrolling section ever a good idea in a Sonic game? But yeah, I mean, like, this game is such a casual time. It kind of reminds me of Sonic 3D Blast, just with the, you know, the chill, good feelings that it provides for me. So I just thought that I'd come on here and just, like, gush about it a little bit. That's Sonic the Hedgehog 8-bit, you guys. What am I talking about?